This is a WIS News special report, the tracking of Hurricane Fran.
In a state of emergency today, in anticipation of Hurricane Fran. He has also activated some of the South Carolina National Guard units, and now the governor has more information on us, presumably about the evacuation of the coast of South Carolina. Nina Brook is live at the governor's office, where he's about to hold a news conference to let us know what he has decided. Nina?
Yes, Keith, I'm in the governor's conference room where we're expecting a statement shortly from Governor David Beasley. He has been meeting behind closed doors all morning with law enforcement, other state officials, trying to ensure that everything will go smoothly if there is an evacuation along the coast. All signs from the governor's staff are that he will be asking for a mandatory evacuation of the coast. They clearly are very concerned about this storm, about the possible strength of this storm, about water that could cause flooding in low-lying areas along the coast. They're also concerned about areas inland. They believe that this storm could take an inland track, could threaten manufactured homes, other possibly unstable kinds of structures inland. So they were probably going to encourage people who live inland to make sure that the place that they are staying is secure and that they will be safe there throughout this storm, Keith. As we told you, throughout the morning there have been meetings going on here. People from emergency preparedness, from SLED, from the Highway Patrol, the Red Cross has been here. The Red Cross will be involved in setting up shelters, and we will probably have some information for you after this news conference about shelters that the Red Cross will be setting up, Keith.
Okay, thanks, Nina, for standing by there. We've got an update now with Brady Smith in the WIS News Weather Center. He continues to track the storm this afternoon. Brady, what's the latest on the storm?
Well, Keith, what we really want to do is take a closer look at the forecast track of this storm. If we can go ahead and show you this graphic that we prepared with our forecast track. There's the current position. That darker white line is the official National Hurricane Center track that they have put together. And you see it, and it appears that if this comes to pass, it looks like Hugo revisited, especially since we're looking at the intensity of the storm being very close to what Hugo was in 1989. We're looking at the possibility, though, that this storm could take more of a curve toward the north and make landfall somewhere between Myrtle Beach and Charleston. That's just a possibility right now. It's something we're going to have to keep an eye on. If it does, that brings, it would affect the Grand Strand more than it would the central coast there of South Carolina. It's starting to look a little more, now we're very early, looking a little more like the low country, maybe spared just a little bit. But once again, we're still 24 to 36 hours away from landfall. Looking at landfall sometime tomorrow evening, probably late tomorrow evening, so we'll be watching this very closely throughout the next 24 to 36 hours.
Okay, thanks, Brady. We're going to take you live now to the governor's office with Nina Brook, where the governor is holding a news conference. Nina?
Keith, we're expecting the governor to be coming in behind me very shortly. He is in the room now, along with the adjutant general, other state officials. The governor will be giving us a statement that he's prepared about Hurricane Fran and about what that means for South Carolina. I see the governor now speaking to the adjutant general, and now Governor David Beasley.
Henry, you got the executive order. Holy, yeah. Anybody not ready? Everybody ready? Everybody here? My fellow South Carolinians, the eyes of the world have turned to South Carolina now that the eye of Hurricane Fran is upon us. As you know, earlier this morning I declared a state of emergency in our state, asking that all residents of beachfront property and barrier islands along our coast voluntarily move inland. Thankfully, we've been getting good reports that a great many people are following our advice and are in the process of relocating. Along with the National Weather Service, South Carolina's Emergency Preparedness Division, working with our Lieutenant Governor Bob Peeler and other state and local officials, we have been monitoring this storm very closely. And we now believe that Fran presents a tremendous threat to all those still in our beachfront areas, and that no area along our coastline is safe from what has become a huge, menacing storm. Our first and most important concern in these situations is always the safety of our fellow South Carolinians and of the thousands of visitors along our coast. It is for their protection that I am now issuing an executive order calling for the immediate mandatory, I repeat, mandatory evacuation for the entire coast of South Carolina, including Jasper, Beaufort, Colleton, Charleston, Georgetown, and Horry counties. Specific areas under evacuation in these areas include, in Horry County, all areas east of Highway 17, except in the cities of Myrtle Beach, Surfside Beach, and Garden City, all areas east of Highway 17 bypass. In Georgetown County, all areas east of Highway 17. In Charleston, Colleton, Jasper, and Beaufort counties, all barrier islands, beachfront property, low-lying areas, and areas near water courses. We expect driving rains coupled with gale force winds as early as this evening. So I would encourage all evacuees to begin seeking shelter as soon as possible. By the morning, we could see conditions that are too treacherous for safe travel. The Red Cross, in conjunction with the Department of Social Services, will be providing shelters for your safety all across the state. If you need the location of the Red Cross shelter nearest you, please call the Red Cross Hurricane Headquarters at this number, 803-771-6224. That's 803-771-6224. Or call the governor's office at 803-734-9818. I repeat, 803-734-9818. Under this state of emergency, Chief Robert Stewart of the State Law Enforcement Division will be coordinating all law enforcement efforts. State law enforcement officers, highway patrol units, National Guard troops, and local law enforcement are working as a team to help people move as safely and as quickly as possible. They will also serve on the ground before, during, and after the storm to protect the property of those that are moving inland. We will be on the roads and the highways to make sure that your passage is as smooth as possible. And we will be in your neighborhoods to watch over your homes while you are gone. It is true that South Carolina has fared incredibly well during this hurricane season, escaping virtually unscathed from Hurricanes Bertha and Edgewater. But none of us can afford to look back at those lesser storms and get complacent about this storm. I cannot emphasize this point enough. Fran is a large and brutal storm, and she is not to be trifled with in any way, shape, fashion, or form. Bear in mind that Hurricane Fran also has the potential to intensify even more in the coming hours and could possibly take a Hugo-like track through many of our inland counties with hurricane-force winds. That's why it's especially crucial for residents of manufactured homes statewide, not just in our coastal regions, to make sure that your property is secure and to seek more stable shelter. I would encourage all residents and tourists in South Carolina to pay close attention to subsequent news updates and to follow the directions of your local officials. We will keep you apprised of Fran's path, as well as many and any other measures you should take to protect your family and property. But I would ask of you only these two things. Please stay safe and stay in prayer. Thank you for your cooperation, and may God bless South Carolina. Any questions from any of the media?
Given that you called for the evacuation of Hurricane Bertha and she missed us?
It wasn't hard. The conditions of this storm are very clear. It's apparent. It's real. The course that we see from all the different sources, the weather, the National Hurricane Center, the National Weather Service, all indicate, I think about as clear as we can expect, South Carolina looks like it's going to get hit. And we can't take chances. I would rather wake up Friday morning and say, boy, you know, storm didn't hit us, but that doesn't appear to be the situation this time. It's better to err on the side of caution, and all our leadership agree with that, and we made the decision that was right.
How concerned should we be fairly stormy?
Well, I think our concern is we began to take immediate action for evacuation on the coastline, particularly, so we don't have bottleneck problems as everyone's trying to evacuate. But I don't want anyone to anticipate or assume that this is just a coastal problem. This is a hurricane that has potential devastating effects all the way inland, just like Hugo. Hugo came inland. No one expected it would. It came inland and went through the PD region, went all the way up through York County into Charlotte, North Carolina. And we expect that the same type, not necessarily the same line, but that same type inland activity could take place with Fran. We don't know exactly where it's going to hit at this point in time. We do expect to hit somewhere along the South Carolina coastline and to move inland because of the dynamics of this particular storm. It has some great potential that could be very devastating inland. So we are asking people, particularly with manufactured homes and low-lying areas, manufactured homes statewide, to begin immediately to secure your premises and begin to look for other stable type shelter.
What's the first game plan of SLED and the National Guard?
That's already activated. Chief Stewart is working with General Spears along with all local government officials in coordinating law enforcement as well as the Highway Patrol, many other different agencies. We already have Highway Patrol and SLED personnel in strategic locations along the coastline. Our National Guard units are already in place in many of the different counties. In fact, we are strategically locating National Guard units during the night for other type of activity we can anticipate depending upon where we need to go. That will assure for two things immediately up front. One's orderly evacuation. Second is protection of people's property while they're gone. And third, be well prepared for re-entry in terms of moving in and doing what we need to do should we have some type of serious type problem.
Are you going to arrest those people who refuse to move out?
Lee, we're going to work with folks as best we can and encourage them the best we possibly. We will encourage them to leave and do everything we can to encourage them. I don't want to get into. I don't anticipate us arresting anybody at this point in time. We will talk about all those factors, but I don't want to get into that, Lee, if we can help it. I don't want anyone to take slight mandatory evacuation. Yeah. I think a high estimate, Bob, is about 500,000 people. That includes tourists as well as residents. That would be statewide in terms of the implication of this mandatory evacuation. That's probably a high figure.
Are we through with the tourist season? What's the estimate of how many tourists we have on our coast right now?
Well, that was the number, was 150,000, approximately 150,000 people. Now understand that's about half of what we would normally have. Had this storm hit last week, Labor Day weekend, we would have had a few 100,000 people in terms of tourists. So we do have a little bit of break there, about 150,000 tourists.
Yeah, we're anticipating landfall at night, like Hugo, right? Is that correct?
Yes. The eye of the storm, and obviously this changes, and our experts are more attuned to this, but what we're anticipating is the eye of the storm around midnight tomorrow night, hurricane force winds late tomorrow afternoon, approximately 4 o'clock, gale force winds early tomorrow morning, surges would begin starting sometime tomorrow morning, as well as, and Jim, this is what all these factors combined is the reason we're moving today and not waiting until tomorrow, because we have to have 12 to 18 hours, depending upon the area, for evacuation. And we have some concern that some folks say, well, the hurricane's not hitting until tomorrow night. Well, the hurricane winds will be hitting tomorrow afternoon, gale force winds early tomorrow morning. It's going to be raining all night long. Couple that with surges, people may not be able to leave in the morning, coupled with the bottleneck. So we're moving forward to mandatory evacuation now so that we can assure of a smooth and orderly evacuation. It is critical, and I really want to emphasize that strongly. especially to our immediate broadcast. That's important that people not wait, and don't assume that you can wait till tomorrow morning and then get out. It may be too late. Conditions may be too bad, from flooding, surges, excessive rain. Gale force winds are not the type of conditions you want to be evacuating in with hundreds of thousands of people trying to move. So we're trying to make certain that we don't get caught in that bad situation.
Are there enough shelters to handle this onslaught of people?
We've got approximately 65 shelters that are set up right now along our coastal areas, and we feel very comfortable with the shelters that we have, and we are working with all the local officials to make certain that people know where to go, where the local shelters are. And I don't know of any problems that we anticipate at this point in time staying with shelters.
I don't think so, Governor. Obviously, we would surge up above 65 substantially.
And we've got, again, those phone numbers that I gave you. People will call. Someone has any question about where a shelter is, if they're having trouble getting through a Red Cross line, just call our office. We have that information here. If you have any trouble getting through, please call. We've got extra people manning the phone so that these questions can be answered as quickly as possible.
Where would you stay?
All right. Well, we were here at 5 o'clock this morning. John will be here and in the mansion. And, of course, as situations develop, moving around to check some things out.
What are the Marine Corps, Air Force folks doing at the bases along the coast? Are they evacuating?
Different, just for example, down in the Marine base down in Beaufort, they are moving them. We're coming up here to Fort Jackson, aren't they? Right?
Yes, sir. Half of Parris Island moved to Fort Jackson and half to Georgia. Yes. Those are moved with public school buses. That will be ongoing during the course of the night tonight. We had early information about Shaw in that they were querying the Weather Service concerning movement of aircraft, and I'm uncertain about where they might have been moved to.
Numbers on how many people evacuated?
How many affected at Parris Island? I do not have the number.
You've got a prison in Jasper County. What's going on?
Jim, in fact, every agency that's impacted is we go through all those, and there's a policy and procedure in effect right now for that.
Are they going to move prisoners out?
I don't know what the answer to that is off the top of my head. We've talked about that, and
they're looking at it, but at this present time they haven't.
And all that is obviously circumstantial too as well. But each jail facility, prison facility, nursing home, schools, Citadel, I mean, you name each college, university, we are dealing with every one of those immediately.
Friday morning execution?
I don't see anything that will stop that at this point in time.
Governor.
Okay. Anything else? Y'all, thank you very much. And I appreciate all of your help in this matter, because this is serious time.
Okay, you've just heard Governor David Beasley call for a mandatory evacuation of the entire South Carolina coast, in particular islands, low-lying areas, beachfront property. In addition, the governor asking that people who live in mobile homes or other people inland who think that wherever they're staying might not stand the force of strong winds to please seek stronger shelter, and shelters will be available for that. Now back to you, Keith.
Okay, thanks, Nina. At the governor's office, we appreciate it. In the governor's words, Fran is a tremendous threat. He said that no area along the coast is safe. He went on to issue that executive order for immediate evacuation of the entire coast of South Carolina. The governor wanting people out now because he says by tomorrow morning with the winds, rains, and downpours, it may not be safe to get out at that time with other heavy traffic. Again, the cutoff point, I should say, on the evacuation of the South Carolina coast is all areas east of Highway 17. You can see the map there up on your screen. Take a second to look at it. All points east of Highway 17, you are under a mandatory evacuation order. Make your way out and head west at this point. We've got a phone number. The governor was concerned if people needed information about the evacuation. We've actually got two phone numbers. Information about emergency shelters. You can call the Red Cross at 803-771-6224. That is 771-6224. for the Red Cross for emergency shelters, and the governor said you can call his office at 734-9818. If you don't have those numbers, you can call us here at the station. Now, as this evacuation all gets underway, we can tell you that South Carolina National Guard units are being activated. We've got some information to pass on to you here very quickly before, well, I'll tell you what, we're going to look at these are the first pictures in from the scene of the Beaufort area as people start to think about evacuating. People are bottling up their items and putting things in from the shelves, buying things from the stores, and heading into their cars and thinking about heading west to safety. There is some more information that I want to pass on to you here. The 132nd and 133rd Military Police Company of the South Carolina National Guard have been ordered to full active duty and are to report immediately to the Armory. So again, that is the 132nd and 133rd Military Police Company. You are to report for active duty immediately to the Armory. Now, as the evacuation process gets underway, we can tell you that the Highway Patrol will be instrumental in keeping all this moving smoothly. We've got a telephone interview now with Lieutenant Dwight Kennerly of the Highway Patrol in District 6. That is the district that covers Charleston and Beaufort. Can you hear me?
Sure, Keith.
Okay. I was wondering if there are any signs that people are already starting to evacuate.
Keith, we do have some signs. Interstate 26 is moving out, not rapidly, but the people in the Charleston and Beaufort area understands severity of this storm. They've gone through it with Hugo. The governor has given the people of South Carolina plenty of time to evacuate safely and secure their properties. The governor has given us 100% cooperation and leading us in the right direction on this storm. It's a very serious storm, and we asking the people in Charleston, our evacuation areas in Charleston is Interstate 26, South Carolina Highway 61, and the 517 connector coming off Sullivan's Island, Isle of Palms.
Okay, Lieutenant Kennerly, those roads are very important at this point. Are there any roads that people should avoid?
Yes, it is. Highway 17, running north and south, they should avoid those roads because a lot of those roads is two-lane highways, especially coming out of the Beaufort area to Charleston County. They should, out of the Beaufort area, they should take 21 to Interstate 95, coming off Hilton Head, 278 to Interstate 95. We have troopers on all the intersections making sure that they don't bottleneck and keeping the traffic flow going. Everything is running real smooth down at the Hilton Head and Beaufort areas. Our troopers are working very close with the local authorities, and the public, we're getting very good cooperation from the Barrier Islands, from the public, and we expect everything to run real smooth and safely.
And Lieutenant Kennerly, when should people leave to avoid traffic jams bottling up tomorrow?
The governor has issued an executive order, just went in effect. We're asking the people to start leaving now, not wait till in the morning. As the governor has said, we're getting rain in Charleston and the islands now. In the morning, we're looking for gale force winds and increasing the winds and stormy conditions tomorrow. If they wait until tomorrow, it may be bottlenecking, and they might not be able to get out as fast as we anticipate. So we're asking all the people to cooperate with the governor and all the local authorities and go ahead and leave immediately.
Okay, Lieutenant Dwight Kennerly with the Highway Patrol District 6, representing Charleston and the Beaufort areas. We appreciate you for that helpful information. And we're going to go now to Tom Johnson. I think we've got Tom Johnson on the phone with the latest from the Myrtle Beach area. Tom, can you hear me?
Yeah, Keith, I can hear you fine.
What's the latest up there? I understand people are taking this threat very seriously, thinking back to Hugo.
Yeah, I think what comes to mind for me immediately, Keith, is Hurricane Bertha last month. A lot of people didn't seem to be taking it very seriously as it was moving its way up the coast. However, that is quite a different story now. There are still some folks who are out on the beaches. However, there are also a lot of people who are boarding up and hitting the grocery stores and making preparations. We went to a Lowe's hardware store this morning, about 12:30, and between 9 a.m. and 12:30, Lowe's there had already sold $70,000 worth of lumber to folks who were trying to board up and get ready. We spoke with officials from both Myrtle Beach and North Myrtle Beach. They both say they are getting their equipment prepared and that their emergency operations centers will open tomorrow morning at the latest, if not sooner, depending on the projected track of this storm.
Tom, any idea yet what the biggest concerns are on the now mandatory evacuation from that area?
Keith, to tell you the truth, we haven't had a chance to speak with anyone since the mandatory evacuation has been ordered just in the last few minutes. That is something we'll be checking on, however, in the next hour or so as we continue to watch the situation here.
Okay, Tom Johnson, we appreciate the information from Myrtle Beach this afternoon. We know you'll keep us posted. And for the very latest on the tracking of Hurricane Fran, we go now to the WIS News Weather Center with meteorologist Brady Smith, who is tracking the storm. He's been busy all day with this. We've got the very latest now.
That's right, Keith. The mandatory evacuation of the entire South Carolina coastline, a very strong action by the governor, but also a necessary action. Let's take a look at one of the reasons why. Here's the forecast track of Hurricane Fran, bringing it into what appears to be the Charleston area along the central coast of South Carolina. Now, this storm is still continuing to wobble just a little bit, and with these wobbles, you get little variations in the track. It is continuing to move to the northwest at 12 miles an hour with winds of 115 miles an hour. But as you have these little variations in the track, this could affect anywhere along the South Carolina coast. Another factor we also need to take into account is that hurricane force winds extend 175 miles out from the center of this storm. Therefore, we could see hurricane force winds reach the coast of South Carolina by sometime early tomorrow afternoon, maybe even late tomorrow morning, even though we won't see the eye come ashore until sometime late tomorrow night. So that's why the evacuation becomes necessary.